Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us again at Hudson County Review Live. I am your host, the man with the largest arms, the greatest charm, and the words that do the most harm, John R. Hydus. And today we are joined by former Assemblyman and mayoral candidate from Bayonne. You may know him as the sensation, Jason O'Donnell. Jason, great to have you.
Thanks for having me, John.
So, Jason, let's go back a few years here to 2014. Obviously, it's a tight race between Jimmy Davis and Mark Smith. Obviously, we know how that ended. So, basically, at that point, you know you're not going to be able to serve another term in the Assembly. So, what's going through your head at that point?
Elections happen. People win, people lose. The community wanted to go in another direction, and it did. It is what it is, John. It's, Mark ran and Mark lost. Jimmy won, ran and Jimmy won. I mean, it's that simple. There's no, there's nothing really to talk about.
Gotcha. Now, just tell us a little bit what you've been doing since then, and what made you decide that you would be a good candidate for Bayonne in 2018 here.
So after retiring from the fire department, I went into the private sector. I worked in public relations for 2 years, public relations communications with a company called Kibit, which I enjoyed. But Bayonne's my hometown, and I've seen things over the last 3 years that I just don't agree with. And I was raised that, if you see something, and you think you can do a better job, then by all means, get involved. So here I am.
So, up to this point of the campaign, you've been talking a lot about the administration's payment in lieu of taxes policies.
Yep.
Obviously, you have not been happy about it. You've said that this is favoring, rich developers and so on and so forth. I don't need to tell you, but tell us a little bit why you feel that way and what you think the way smart development should be happening in Bayonne.
So a couple of things. I am by no means against development. Planned, smart development that fits neighborhoods, that builds in our infrastructure and does those things. But we've done over 30 long-term pilot programs. 30. Think about that. None of which have a project labor agreement attached, which would provide for union labor to go to work on these jobs. The men and women of organized labor in the city of Bayonne would have an opportunity to work where they live. That's number one. Not one. Number two, there has not been a community benefit agreement attached to any of these. And what is that? Giving developers the opportunity and the city to partner to do some good for the community. It can't be all one-sided. It's not enough that you're building the apartment there. That's a risk you're taking. You're the developer, you're taking that risk. I get it. But over 30. The other problem with that is it's robbing education. When you're not paying into the education for our children, what's going to happen down the line? I mean, I'm sure you've reported on the shortfalls we've had financially at the Board of Ed. Is it going to get any better when 30 plus pilot agreements don't include monies to the Board of Education? Look, you can say all you want, there'll be no school-age children there. I can't say that. I don't have a crystal ball. If I knew that, I'd give you the 6 numbers for next week's Powerball. We can't make that claim. We don't know.
Right.
My point is, those who don't have children, those who have children that go to private schools, seniors that their children were gone a long time, they still pay for education, right?
It's true.
Because that's how the system works. So we are creating a problem long-term down the road if we do populate with children. Look, you mentioned you were in Hoboken last night. And we're here in downtown Jersey City where there's been tremendous growth.
Correct.
Buildings. I was just in Dunkin' Donuts and I saw about 15 young ladies with strollers with babies. They're living somewhere. So it's going to happen eventually, and we may be left on the hook with a tremendous shortfall in terms of education dollars.
Well, that's an interesting topic, of course, but let me backtrack for just a moment. You mentioned that there hasn't been any project labor agreement. In front of the council in about 2 weeks, there will be a project labor agreement, and you don't actually support that plan. So could you tell me?
I don't support that plan? No, I do support that plan. I have no issue with the project labor agreement they did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have no issue. I just think it's 35 pilot projects too late.
Oh, I see. So
the horse left the barn, right? You do 35, and now you kind of see the light. I don't know. I heard there's an election coming up.
That's accurate.
Wow. Okay. I don't like to be, but there's an election coming up, so it stands to reason that that's why that happened. If it's good now, why wasn't it good 2.5 years ago?
Fair enough.
I don't believe in coincidences anymore. So, look, I'm not against having a PLA ordinance. I'm all for it. I think the threshold should be lower, but that's an argument we can have at another time. On its face and the premise is correct. Just way too late.
Gotcha. So then to your point about the school funding. So school funding in Bayonne has been a hot topic for many years, of course, dating back to your days in the legislature. So now, what do you think is a fair and equitable plan for development that aids the school system in Bayonne? What would you like to see there if you were to take office?
Well, we have to fully fund our education, and let's start from the top down. What has Governor Murphy said? We have to fully fund our education. We can no longer short our children's future. We just can't do it. The formula that they've been going by is not working. We can't. There's no shortcuts. We have to give them the resources they need. Our teachers, our students. It's a problem, right? I mean, think about it. We're going to short the education of future generations of our children. We have to figure out a way so that they're fully funded every year. We don't keep running into these catastrophes.
So with the new school funding formula, on that point,
there isn't a new one yet, right? I mean, they're working through it now.
That's true. Yeah. So the potential new school funding formula, it looks like Bayonne will get some more funding.
Yes, we will under what Senator Sweeney and they have there. Yeah, we will get some more funding, but it's nowhere near what we need, or more importantly, nowhere near what we've been shorted over time. Now, again, you can't go back and recoup those funds, but we have to figure out a way that never happens again.
Mm-hmm. And what was your take on the whole budget crisis at the Board of Education this past year? I mean, what was, from just an outside perspective, what were you thinking?
Well, tragic. I mean, 280 lives were changed. Whether you got your job back or you didn't, for a period of time of 2, 3, 4, 5 months, in some cases, I guess 4 months, in some cases, there was so much uncertainty that, that's devastating for somebody. Somebody young in their career who wants to be a teacher, who's committed, who's passionate about education, and you get the rug pulled out from under you. And I think it sets a real bad precedent going forward, because how do you attract young, bright, energetic teachers if they know that there's an uncertain environment, that they won't keep their job? So, look, I'm optimistic and hopeful that now that the state audit is completed and has shown that there were mistakes, but they figured them out, and I do believe many of the teachers were brought back. I hope we can avoid that going forward. But I think going forward, what has to happen is the administration has to work with the Board of Education to figure this out. It's not them and us. It's one city. It's one city. They're everybody's children. I mean, we're all taxpayers. It's not the elected board's problem. It's not Avenue C's problem. It's all of our problem.
All right, so with that said, on a completely different topic, one thing that has been a hot topic already in this early part of the election cycle is this whole sexting scandal with the mayor and a former City Hall employee. You've said publicly several times that if it's true, he should probably step down.
No, I've never said that. If it's true, my concern is the lawsuit and what is it going to cost taxpayers. That's what I've said.
Okay.
I haven't called for anybody to step down. Everybody's entitled to their day in court. If it is true, and if it is proven to be true in court, what is it going to cost the taxpayers? It's problematic.
All right. And previously the mayor has accused you of playing some sort of role in this and putting this former employee up to it.
Let's be very clear. The mayor said, I have something to do with it. He said somebody took his phone. He said he didn't do it. He said it's playful banter. On any given day of the week, it's a different answer. I don't know. I'm not going to go back and forth on that. But I have no role in what he texted a woman. Mm-hmm. I have nothing to do with that. I've never had his phone. So he can say that all he wants. But started out as I didn't do it. Somebody took my phone. Playful banter. Now it's my fault. Unacceptable. You can blame me for a lot of things. On that one. I'm sorry, that's a bridge too far.
Understood. So, all right, now with that I also wanted to talk a little bit about your actual team. So, you've announced 4 of the 5 candidates, and, everyone at your event last night had a chance to meet them a little bit, get the personalities and what they stand for. But you haven't announced the 3rd ward yet, so can I ask you who the 3rd ward candidate's going to be?
You'll have a press release probably in 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still going to make me wait, huh? All right, no problem. But we were just talking about teachers, obviously, and one of the people on your slate's an educator, Dan Ward, and I think it could be argued he's got one of the biggest personalities on the slate. He had a lot to say last night, and if I'm not mistaken, that was the first person you announced on the ticket.
Yes.
And so just tell me why you thought he was a good fit.
I've known Danny, 30 years. He's a good person, cares about the community, gives of his time. Not a politician, just somebody who wants to see the right thing get done, and for the right reasons. Compassionate, we share the same values, the same, ideas as to where the city could be and should be.
And let's just talk about the rest of the team then briefly. So in the 2nd ward, you got Kevin Kuhl.
Yep.
So just briefly, your thoughts on him.
Another guy fits the same mold. Small business owner, hardworking, but really involved in the community for 3 to 4 decades in terms of his charitable endeavors. I mean, somebody who has done a lot for a lot of people and doesn't come out to take a bow or break his arm, pat himself on the back, just wants to help people.
And just continue with the rest of the team.
And you have Sharma Montgomery in the 1st ward again, and I spoke about her last night. Air Force veteran, a mom, career woman, knows how to get things done. Big heart, compassionate, and brings a view of what government should be different than others. I mean, just really a good and quality person. And then you have Melissa Enriquez Rada, who, dynamo. You talk about somebody who I don't sleep much, but I don't know where she finds the time to do all the things she does between her professional life and the volunteering she does, and whether it be building a clinic in the Philippines or helping people out in Staten Island after Hurricane Sandy, just on her own with her family, helping people out in Bayonne after Hurricane Sandy, and again, charitable endeavors that she doesn't talk about. She does them because they're the right thing to do. So, I think we're blessed to have, the mix of folks we have with the diverse backgrounds that they have, and just all people that want to do the same thing, do the right thing, and make sure that the people of Bayonne are serviced properly.
All right, well, they all seem like qualified candidates.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll see what happens on May 8th. But on a totally different topic once again, a big thing that came down in Bayonne on Wednesday was that the lawsuit with the Muslim Community Center and the city has come to a conclusion. It looks like a very large settlement, $400,000, and it looks like the community center will be built. So what do you think about this whole saga? I believe there still needs to be another hearing at the zoning level, but, just everything you've seen from 2016 to date, I mean, what are you thinking about all that?
Look, John, I think it goes to lack of leadership. Right, we're in this spot now where the administration is actually celebrating a $400,000 settlement, $400,000 that the taxpayers are on the hook for, and they're happy about it. And it's going to go on the original spot that was proposed. I think lack of leadership during that whole time period is what's gotten us to this point. We spoke recently with the residents of the 2nd ward. And they're worried about development. They're worried about overcrowding over there. We have to take a hard look on anything that's built anywhere in terms of its impact on the neighborhoods. But again, that saga was a stain on the city of Bayonne. And, now the mayor is going to celebrate a $400,000 tax bill. I just find it disturbing. I absolutely find it disturbing. Taxpayers of the city of Bayonne deserve better.
Now, on that point, you're talking about potential overdevelopment in the 2nd ward. Mm-hmm. The zoning board, voted this down previously because they said it was just too large to fit in the neighborhood they wanted to build in. So, I mean, what do you think about that stance?
Well, did they say it was too large, or there were other issues? Now, I didn't follow it.
Well, I mean, I'm oversimplifying it.
Yeah.
There were variances, and there was parking, and some people felt that there weren't the concerns weren't taken to heart, and there weren't professional studies done at the level they wanted to see.
And people have the right to ask those questions. I get it, but we have to look at all the development that's done in the 2nd ward. I mean, we were down there last week. We had a meet and greet. 100 people showed up, and their concerns are similar to those around the rest of the city. what impact is all this development going to do to parking, quality of life, infrastructure? And these are real issues. So, they have valid concerns.
Okay, fair enough. Now, another thing about the election cycle going on is, I don't think anyone's come out and said it publicly, but I'm sure you've heard this, well, I know you've heard this in the streets, and people say, all the shortcomings of the Mark Smith administration are the shortcomings of Jason O'Donnell. What's your take on that sort of stance and that belief that people that favor the incumbent seem to have?
Well, listen, I get that, and that's why we're out there meeting groups of 10, 20, 15. We have to get our message out there. I mean, my name is Jason O'Donnell. I'm Jason O'Donnell. I worked for Mark Smith just like Jimmy Davis worked for Mark Smith. I worked in an administration that I'm proud of a lot of the things we did. But I'm not Mark Smith, as Jimmy Davis isn't Joe Doria. I mean, we're I'm my own person. So over the next 3 months, people will make their decision. People will either believe in what we're proposing or they won't.
And as far as Mark Smith goes, there's been some chatter that he's considering a run. I mean, I don't know if you guys have conversed much, if at all, but what's your take on that? I mean, do you feel like he's going to enter the race as we speak today?
Listen, and you have his number. You should give him a call. I've seen him. This is America. Everybody's entitled to run. So, I mean, that's a question for him to answer. I wouldn't dare, presume to know what's on his mind in terms of running or not.
Gotcha. But there is a third candidate, or a potential candidate
Possibly,
at least.
Yeah, sure.
Michael Alonzo,
Yes.
Board of Education member,
Yes.
who is, I guess we could say, ruffled some feathers already in the past month. But what do you think about that potential opponent?
Oh, listen, again, we're Mayor Davis is a candidate. We're a candidate. If Alonzo files his petitions, he'll be a candidate. We'll see. I mean, I'm not going to speculate on who might run. I can just say that we're in this race. We're in this race to win. We will file the appropriate amount of petitions, and we'll be anxiously awaiting May 8th.
Gotcha. And just finally, Jason, could you just tell us a little bit why you think you and your team is the superior choice to the incumbents ahead of that May 8th election?
Well, I just think our vision for the city is better, and I think the folks that have coalesced around us have a similar vision as where our city should be, and we're all there. Look, I was born and raised in Bayonne, 5th generation, never left, never going anywhere. Bayonne is my home. It will always be my home. The folks that are on our team feel the same way. I think others in the current administration don't feel that way. They think if they win, great, they'll be here. If they lose, they'll go back to where they're from or where they eventually want to wind up. And I think people are going to feel that. People are going to feel that commitment to the community. And I think we'll if we get our vote out on May 8th, I think we'll be successful.
Very good, Jason. It was a pleasure.
Sure,
always a gentleman.
Absolutely.
And it was. I think we had some really good conversation about this upcoming race. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I will see you next week. Hopefully, we will have Mayor Jimmy Davis, and we'll see what he has to say. Everyone, have